Hello, this short video will introduce you to entering your own data for the non-detained master calendar hearings. We use a survey tool called Qualtrics to collect all the data for the Immigration Court Observation Project. When you are ready to start doing your own data entry, you will be provided with the links and the passwords. I have already clicked the link and I am putting in the password right here. You always click the bottom right arrow to get to the next screen. So I am putting in my name. It is important when you do the dates to follow the exact instructions or it will not accept the date. So 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year. In this case, it's the same person who is entering the data and who volunteered, but that isn't always the case. You pick the time slot that most approximately matches when your shift was. You will click the judge. You will click the government attorney. I do want to say that these are alphabetized by last name, but as attorneys have gotten married or divorced or changed their name or new people have been added, it doesn't always end up in alphabetical order. So you have to continue to scroll down. For instance, newest government attorneys are listed at the bottom because if we were to alphabetize them once the form is set up, it would displace previously entered data. So we want to know how many hearings you observed, and a family or a sibling pair or a parent-child grouping that has a combined case where they take it together, you would count as one hearing. So these aren't individuals. So I'm going to make this really easy and say 10 hearings, 9 were people in person, 1 was on the video, 9 were pro se, 1 was represented. This is a highly mobile population, which is why we ask how many people have moved, and it's often quite a lot. How many were English speakers? How many were Spanish speakers? And then the number of people who spoke a different language. And I'm just making this up for the sake of this. Whoops, that was wrong. How many people, if they couldn't find an interpreter, that would be the next question. And if there are other languages, what were they? So I will say this, there was one person who was a Creole speaker. So again, the focus of this form is to look at dismissals and how the government is handling that and how the judge is handling it. So I will say the government moved to dismiss 2, and they said it is no longer in the best interest of the government to pursue this case. They often are saying something very purposely vague. We want to know if the judge explained what this meant to the respondent. I'm making no judgment about the judge I randomly picked in the drop-down menu. So I'm going to say not really, just their case would end in court today. I hope you all type better than I do. Did the judge ask the respondent for a response before ruling? So that's really yes, no, unless you're really not sure what happened. And I'll say they just said, do you have any questions? Respondent objected. So this is, did any respondent object? So maybe 1 did and 3 did not. I already forgot how many I said. We'll just keep moving. I filed my application and I want my final hearing. And I will say 1 person said this. So again, we want it brief, but we really want to understand what people are saying. Most people seemed confused, for instance. You might even say the government seemed harsh, or um, the government said they can't object, or so whatever you witnessed and however it went down, that's what we want to know briefly. So then you're going to be able to fill in the information for each person, and the form is set up so that um, if you fill one in, it will give you another blank. If you don't fill that blank in, then the next time you click, it'll move on to the next question on the form. But if you keep adding them, so maybe you have 6 people they move to dismiss, every time you fill out one, a new blank will fill up. But let's say they move to dismiss none and you left this blank, you'd move immediately on to the next question. So that's how the form is set up. So we want to know pro se, yes or no. So that means, did they have an attorney today? If they didn't, then they were pro se. The gender, all 9 digits of the A number, if you heard it, and if you didn't, you mark in what you did. So let's say 1, 2, 3, XXX 5, 7, 8. No hyphens, no spaces, just all in a row. Years in the US, and we like it in the form of years, preferably, rather than putting words in like 1 year, 2 months, or even 6 months if you can do 0.5 years. The more consistent we can use years, the better. But let's say you say 3 months. Maybe that is it. The country code, I'm going to say Guatemala. The language they spoke. So the real concern is that it's confusing enough, but if they didn't get the proper language interpreter, it's very likely that the respondent didn't understand what was happening at all. So has a relief application been filed? In most cases, these are going to be asylum seekers. So have they already filed their asylum application? And hopefully this is yes, no, but if you have to say something different, that's okay. So, and maybe even want to say yes, asylum, but we're really hoping for yes, no. We're trying to figure out how many times they're dismissing cases where really somebody would be ready for a merit hearing because they filed their application. Did the judge dismiss the case? So in this case, I'm going to say yes. Again, I'm making this up. And did the respondent reserve appeal? Yes. So they can appeal this decision, and supposedly if they appeal it, they stay in regular 240 removal proceedings, meeting before the immigration court until that appeal is decided. So I filled this out, so it's going to go to the next one. So I'm going to say, yes, the respondent is pro se. This one was female, 222 334 909. I'm just making it up. Time in the US, 1.5 years. Country code, Nicaragua. Language spoke Spanish. No problem. I can't spell. Was release application filed? Yes. Did judge dismiss the case? In this case, I'm going to say no. So then there's nothing to appeal because it's not relevant. I'm going to go on, and let's say that's my last one. Then it would show blank, and I have nothing to fill. Keep going. But I want to say there was a question on this form about pretermission. That means somebody's filed an application and the judge says, I reviewed your case. You're not going to win. I'm denying your application right now, and I'm ordering a removal. You can also add these here, but not if there's places for 8 dismissals or 8 motions to dismiss. So if you are going to fill all those up, then pretermissions won't fit. But let's say I had 2 that they moved to dismiss. I'm done with those, but there was a pretermission. Then I'm going to fill this in with the pretermission, and I'll show you how to do that. So yes, the person was pro se. This was a man. I didn't hear the first A number, but then I got the next 6. Time in the US, 7 months. Country code, I'm going to again say Nicaragua. Language spoken, Spanish, no problem. And then I'm going to say, has relief application been filed? Yes, asylum. And I'm going to write here, instead of did they dismiss, pretermit, or pretermission, you can say either one. And then removal order. That allows us to have more specifics about this particular case than we would if we just do the yes or no questions that come. So that's my last, that was my only pretermission. Those were my only two moves to dismiss. Then did the judge pretermit a case? Yes. And it was one. And the judge said, no, fear of gangs is not a legitimate grounds for asylum. You can internally locate, and your application was deficient. And then you try to check your spelling. And then what happened in your cases, hopefully these numbers will be internally consistent, but since I didn't pay attention to the numbers I said, I'm making this up again. So suppose there were 10 hearings, one got pretermitted, one got dismissed, one of those is continuing. There should be basically 8 continued hearings. And I'm going to say 6 were master calendar resets and 2 were set for merit hearings. There were no admin closures. Nobody was put on the status docket. 1 got the removal order. That was the pretermission. Nobody got voluntary departure. There were no changes of venue. And then we move on to no-shows, which are not in the count of the hearings that were done. And I'm going to say there were 10 no-shows. 1 got a continuance and 9 got in absentia removal orders. Now, we only count the no-shows that the judge reviewed while you were in court. If they're going through the docket and some people haven't come yet, but your shift is over and they aren't talking about those, then you leave that part blank. On the other hand, if they say we're done with the cases and now we're doing the no-shows and it's still your shift, you stay and you hear what happens to those no-shows. And then the others are about advisals. So it's a Likert scale. You don't have to be exact. We're trying to get, in general, does the judge do this? So is the judge verifying people's current address? Is the judge telling people that they have to file a change of address within 5 days? Is the judge telling them that if they fail to come to court when they're scheduled, they can get a deportation order in their absence? If they say something vague like, you could just get removed and it doesn't make sense, then you would say they didn't really explain that well. You want to really hear the word deportation or removal from the United States. Is the judge offering people the option to appear by WebEx if they file a motion? In general, we're not hearing that, so I expect that to be a pretty low number. But if it's pro se respondents having their very first hearing, are they being offered an asylum application? And this will really matter because maybe they're all just getting their cases dismissed and getting put into expedited removal. This would be a huge change from before. For pro se respondents at a first hearing, is the judge explaining that people have to file for asylum within 1 year of entering the United States? If the asylum application has been filed, is the judge moving forward with the case, meaning taking pleadings and offering a merit hearing next, even if that merit hearing is 1 or 2 or 3 years away, or putting them in the trial queue? The idea is, are they moving the case forward, or are they just, again, suggesting time to find an attorney? Did anybody ask about work authorization or the asylum clock? I'm going to say yes. And what did they say? Somebody said, when can I get my work permit? And we really want to say one person asked, and one person asked if looking for an attorney will stop the clock. Sometimes you will hear things and you will know it's relevant to the form and you won't fully understand it. Feel free to reach out for an explanation, but write down what you hear. I'm going to say everybody was stressed and there seemed to be an ICE agent with the docket typing on his phone and taking notes. People kept looking back at him. I'm just making this up. Maybe you want to say went fast, a couple crying kids. I mean, whatever seems relevant to you. Clerk was helpful. DHS attorney was rude, whatever seems relevant to you. Did you complete an enforcement form? So you would in this case, because you even already mentioned there was an ICE agent in the courtroom. So anytime you see them, a reminder that they tend to be totally plainclothes. Most of them, maybe none of them. Sorry, not most of them. Most of them will be in plainclothes without a badge. Maybe there'll be nobody with a badge and nobody with a weapon. It might just look like guys in khakis with baseball caps lounging in the hallway. So, but if there's anybody with a docket in the room who's typing on a phone, you know that's an ICE agent. So I'm going to say, yes, I completed an enforcement form. And then I'm going to go back, like it says, scroll back. And it's a bit of inconvenience, but you want to go back and make sure that you didn't make a mistake, leave something blank, not type an A number that you meant to type. Because once it's submitted, it can be changed, but it's a big hassle. So I've gone back to the beginning. I'm checking my information. That all looks fine. I'm going to scroll through until it tells me I get to the submit button. You will notice there aren't the same number of questions on each page of the form. That sometimes has to do with internal logic that gets set into the form. Anyways, it's that easy. And if you're ready to do another form, you just click on that link, press enter again, and you're ready to enter the password and do your new form. Thank you for watching. That's all.